It has been a very interesting year in China for 2022. I think I need to do that again. It's not China, it's China. It has been a very interesting year in China for 2022. And it all started in January, obviously, of that year when two dams in China, Inner Mongolia, collapsed. And this was the report related to those dams. Okay, so what you can see here, I have slowed down, and you can see this happened due to heavy rains of the summer of 2021. And I was looking for this footage for a very, very long time indeed. I've taken out the sound of this so you can actually see the actual dramatic effect. It moves on to the second frame, and you can see this is after the whole dam has collapsed, and there's a small tsunami of water which goes into the plains and rushes down at an incredible speed to collapse bridges and also to flood highways, freeways, and motorways, which you can see here. This is what happens when an old dam is not maintained. It is absolutely shocking. And when it does reach the city and the subways, you can see unprepared for any kind of disaster like this. And it's just, again, words cannot describe what the people... COVID for the rest of the world is just living with COVID, while China did imply some really strict lockdowns. At the beginning of the year was Xi'an. Xi'an is in the north of the country, the first capital of China. Very beautiful city, in fact, with lots of history there. Then it was Beijing. Then it was followed by Shanghai. I am going to show you some pictures of the lockdown. It was a 2-month lockdown in Shanghai, and this was a very tough lockdown, and many things went wrong. That people did actually starve. Many people were incredibly hungry because it was a lockdown in your apartment. You could not leave your apartment, basically. Here's some images of what it was like in Beijing earlier this year with their lockdown. And in the midst of all that, China had one of the hottest summers recorded in Chinese history. Temperatures soared up to 42 degrees, where normally temperatures would be 25, 26 degrees. And it was an unbearable time in China. Power cuts, no electricity, roaming power surges for people who could have power and others couldn't. This is how the Global Times actually reported what was going on. The Global Times is a Chinese state media news outlet. Then, towards the end of this year, at the end of November, there were some protests which stemmed near enough in every major city, saying enough is enough of the lockdowns. We don't want the PCR tests, we want to be free. Even though cases were surging in China related to a very mild version of Omicron. And with that, protests started, especially from the students who just wanted to have a life and you could say saw the West. Yes, the West had Omicron. Yes, the West had COVID, but lots of people have had the injections one way or the other, and it seemed to be life was like normal, while in China it was like going back to the Stone Age. Here's a glimpse of those protests a little bit earlier from November 2022.
好，3个人下来，给他家人就麻烦，他给他家人，家人再不走了，家人再不走了，加一个人就跑起来了，对。老板给你饭吃啦，
第一波，我觉得武警的来了啊，城管的来了，看到没有？武警只有我站的最高啊！第一波开始啊，第一波开始啊！
So, what are my predictions for 2023? Well, I think there's the continued surge of the Omicron, and then, like a lot of the world, once it hits its peak, it's going to go down. China's going to get into, like in the UK or in other countries, the herd immunity. I think there's going to be tighter restrictions on people from China coming to Europe until the cases go down. That's happening now and starting at the beginning of next year in America and some other countries. Japan already has implemented this. I think there's going to be the usual kind of things related to the flooding that happens every year. I don't think there's going to be a drought because they are quite rare. If you asked in England a drought, most people would say 1976, when it was really hot indeed. And what else? There's going to be the usual political scandal. I don't think anything will happen with China and the country of Taiwan, but I think there'll be lots of talks about it and there'll be lots of discrepancies. You could say the same old, which is the news which hits China. It's really funny, but first of all, I need to take a break. Just needed to do a little bit of a cough. Welcome back. It's a little bit funny in a way that this always happens. There's lots of talks and very little action. There is going to be some scandal about politicians. what really needs to happen is that there needs to be lots of talks related to America and China and the action as well. A compromise related to China and Taiwan, a compromise between mainland China and Hong Kong, etc., etc. Most people in general are happy and they are contented in China in a way of how their life is. It is very different to the West, and maybe that's what some people or the Western people don't really understand. Living in Asia for 29 years, do I understand it? A little bit. But because I'm not Asian, it's not inborn to me. It's not inbred in that way or shape or form. So it's going to be a very interesting year. What I hope is that the Chinese people can get back to normal and they can get money and they can go on holiday and have a enjoyable life, like what we want for most of ourselves and our family. I really hope it is. The dream would be that the CCP would collapse and it would be a democracy. But that, let's be really honest, is not going to happen. It would be lovely if Xi Jinping actually stepped down, because in his 10 years of dictatorship, China actually has got worse. And before, you would actually really consider going to China to possibly work or live. But now they say, well, no, not really. Not because of necessarily the government, I would just say because of Xi. He really is like Mao 2.0. But let's leave on a positive note, and China is actually a beautiful place. The people, the cuisine, the history, the culture. It's just the government that really sucks. Let's see something beautiful to end this show with. Thank you so much for your time. As always, please do like, share and subscribe. Do check out the other channels that you can see in the description below. I hope you have a marvelous new year, whatever you're doing, whether you're in Times Square in New York or by the London Eye in London, or by the very tall building in Dubai, or by the Sydney Opera House, which is actually magnificent. For your New Year celebrations, peace to everyone in your family. I hope everyone is well, healthy, and let's make 2023 the best year so far of this decade. I'm really going to try for myself. I hope you can join me for the ride. I will continue to do lots of videos on YouTube, regardless if my subscribers go down, regardless of I don't get many views. This is a hobby for me, but I really do appreciate some of the tips and donations I get. Most of that money, if not all, goes to Pickle, my little pussycat, who's now 3 months old. She's doing very well indeed. And thank you for everyone who's contributed. Thank you to everyone who's subscribed. Thank you to everyone who's left a comment. I will just say Happy New Year for 2023. My name is James. Bye-bye for now. Cheerio.